Hey guys, welcome back, and welcome if you are new to the channel. My name is Morgan and this is Bunnies at Home. Before we get into today's video, please make sure that you're subscribed. If you're not, you should be. Why aren't you? Once you subscribe, go ahead and hit the bell icon so that you'll get notified every time I post a new video. If at any point during this video you decide, hey, I like this video, please hit the like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. And without further ado, let's get into the video. So today I'm going to be talking about 10 common mistakes that rabbit owners make. Some of these are more serious, some are not as serious, but they're super common mistakes, especially considering the amount of misinformation that goes around about rabbit care. So let's get started. Number one, probably the most common thing, is not enough space or improper housing. Rabbits need plenty of space for daily exercise. Without enough room to exercise throughout the day, rabbits can easily become obese, and this can lead to tons of problems, including cardiac and respiratory issues, organ failure, and all sorts of crazy things that no one wants to happen. So definitely make sure that your rabbit has enough space to run around. Typically the suggestion is 10 to 12 square feet just in their regular enclosure, and it's also highly suggested that they get extra exercise time outside of that enclosure as well. If you've ever seen a rabbit running around, they can run really fast in a tiny cage. They obviously can't do that. It's generally considered the very best thing if you can allow your rabbit to free roam, but in my opinion, sometimes this does cause a slight risk, especially if you're not home with your rabbit, etc. So I do think it's important for them to have an enclosed area for them to be in that's very contained and safe, but free roaming them as much as possible is always going to be the best option. Another reason that they need tons of space is because they need room for enrichment. They have really lively minds, they're very emotional and smart creatures, they can learn tricks. There are all sorts of things that you can do with your rabbit for enrichment, and if they're not being enriched, they're going to get bored. And boredom leads to destruction. They will absolutely destroy everything in your house. Giving them enough space to exercise on a daily basis is super important, not only for their physical health, but also for their mental health. Number two, and this might be tied with the most common, but not feeding your rabbit properly. Hay, veggies, pellets. How do you balance the diet? I'm gonna have a whole separate video on this, but a lot of people are just really confused. A lot of pet stores don't even give enough information. So generally it's considered that hay and grasses should make up about 80% of your rabbit's diet. 15% should be fruits or veggies, and 5% or less should be pellets. Of course, rabbits need unlimited access to hay, and some people don't know that and they don't give them enough hay, and some people don't even give them hay, and that can kill your rabbit. They need hay. If you don't have hay and you have a rabbit, you have a problem. Another thing that people do wrong with diet is feeding way too many pellets. I mean, I see tons and tons of videos of people with filled up to the brim bowls of pellets, and that is just not good. Pellets will fill up your rabbit and they won't want to eat their hay, which is really bad. Hay is life. Another huge mistake that I see floating around once in a while, especially on TikTok, is baths. Please do not give your rabbit a bath, even if they get dirty. Please don't. Rabbits are super clean. They're like cats. They clean themselves. They're generally really good at it. If they're getting sick and getting like poopy butt or just not able to clean themselves very well, you can spot clean with a lukewarm rag so that they don't get fully soaked. If you fully soak your rabbit, you're putting them in extreme danger. They can go into shock from fear because they're not supposed to get wet, and they can actually die just from that. Their fur is very dense, and so it holds on to water for a long time, and because their skin is so thin, the water is going to quickly affect homeostasis, which can cause their temperature to drop extremely quickly, and they can go into hypothermic shock and die very easily. So please don't bathe your rabbit. Ever. Don't ever do it. Number four is taking your rabbit out. Now, this is a slightly debated topic. In my opinion, based on my own research and my own experience, I don't think that it is beneficial to take your rabbit out places. My suggestion is to keep them indoors as much as possible. Rabbits are prey animals and they're very prone to stress. Stress can send them into shock, and if they're in extreme stress, they can develop anxiety, which can cause high blood pressure, cardiac problems, respiratory problems, etc. So putting your rabbit in these intense situations is just not a good idea. They're genetically predisposed to being afraid. Being afraid is what keeps them alive in the wild, but they're not in the wild. And so if they're constantly being brought in and out of being places, it's really not good for them. They're gonna become really anxious. They can die of fear. So you decide to take your rabbit to the beach and there's a dog there that's barking and scares your rabbit. You can't control this external stimuli, so you don't know how your rabbit's going to respond. If a dog runs out of nowhere off leash at the beach and runs up to your rabbit, it could literally scare your rabbit to death. So I mean, I think it's generally best to just try not to take your rabbit out as much as possible. Of course, they have to go to the vet and there are certain things. If you have a really controlled backyard environment and a safety pen where you could let them outdoors for a little bit, I think if you feel like you can control the environment well enough and you can supervise your rabbit really closely, I think that's one thing. But taking them out places, having a bunch of strangers, petting them, loud noises, it's just not good for your rabbit and there's no reason to put them through that. Hey guys, editing me here. I also wanted to throw in a point about harnesses. This is also a widely debated topic, but in my time working at a vet, we saw plenty of injuries caused by harnesses. Rabbits have really, for lack of a better word, brittle bones, which sounds really bad, but they're pretty much as delicate as you could imagine them to be. And there are just tons of things that can go wrong if you take your rabbit on a walk, have it on a harness. If you're putting any kind of pressure on the clavicle, the shoulders, the spine, bad things can happen. So from my own experience and trauma of seeing things happen, I can't endorse for other people to do it. Of course, if you do your own research and, you decide that you've found some kind of safe way that you feel like you can do it, then that's going to be your decision at the end of the day. But I will never endorse using a harness on a rabbit. I've seen far too much. So that's just a side note. Okay, let's roll the good footage. Number 5 is frequent handling. Again, rabbits are prey animals. Their instincts are telling them that all 4 feet should be on the ground at all times. If you pick up your rabbit often, it's just going to stress them out. If you've held them since they were little tiny babies and they become comfortable with it, rabbits will tolerate it, but your rabbit is never going to like it. Your rabbit might put up with it and they might be still and it might seem to you that they like it, but I promise you your rabbit doesn't like it. They just tolerate it. So it's really best to try to avoid holding them as much as you can. Of course, sometimes we need to pick up our bunny or sometimes we just really want to cuddle them and, once in a while might be okay, but you don't want to stress your rabbit out any more than you need to. Frequent handling is actually one of the leading causes of rabbit death, and this is because generally frequent handling occurs in houses where there are children, and rabbits will squirm and kick and scratch to get away from being held. And if a child is afraid and they freak out when a rabbit scratches or bites them and they let go, the rabbit drops. Rabbits have really fragile spines, and typically what happens when they fall is that they break their neck or their spine, which is A, a very bad way to go, and B, it's a very quick death. It's pretty hard for them to recover from these types of injuries if they even survive the initial drop. So you definitely don't want to put them in any kind of risk by continuously holding them, because generally a lot of rabbits are going to try to kick and scratch to get away, and even someone who isn't a kid might get really upset by this and accidentally drop the rabbit. Things happen, accidents happen, so it's best to leave your rabbit on the ground where it belongs. Number 6 is housing outdoors. Now this is a big one and I'm gonna have a separate video on this later. This is also something that is very common due to the widespread misinformation about rabbit care. Keeping them outdoors is just not a good idea. It really doesn't matter what climate you live in. You're exposing them to stress, constant fear. There's also the issue of predators like raccoons, foxes, coyotes, depending on where you live. Wild animals can find ways to get into your rabbit's enclosure, and it's just best not to put them through that. Even if they don't get in, if you have a fox tampering with your rabbit's enclosure, it's probably gonna scare your rabbit to death or give them severe and consistent anxiety, which, as we discussed earlier, is bad. Rabbits are also really sensitive to the temperature. They can freeze in temperatures below 10 degrees Fahrenheit and they can overheat in temperatures above 70 degrees Fahrenheit. So they're very, very sensitive, and it's just best to reduce the risk as much as you can. Number 7, the wrong bedding. A lot of rabbit owners use the wrong bedding. Pine and cedar shavings are among the most popular bad litter types that people typically buy for rabbits. There are a couple of things wrong with them. A, they create fine dust particles that can get into your rabbit's respiratory system and cause infections and irritation. That's just generally bad. And also, when you open a bag of these shavings, you get this aromatic smell, right? You get this strong cedar and pine smell, which people think is great for fighting off odors. That might be true, but they're actually releasing phenols into the air, and these phenols are toxic to rabbits. So what happens is they can actually go into liver failure. They're going to start overproducing an enzyme that's meant to fight off drugs. This might be okay if they're exposed to it for a few minutes. If they're constantly living in the shavings and these phenols are consistently being pushed through their system, their livers actually go into overdrive to produce these enzymes, and they can fail because of this. So it's actually really, really dangerous to have the wrong bedding. The bedding that I would suggest is a paper-based bedding like Carefresh or a condensed pine pellet. Those are a really cheap and safe option, and a lot of people really like the paper-based bedding as well. Number 8 is small litter boxes, and this is another one of those things where it's pet supply companies pushing out products that actually aren't for rabbits. We've all seen them, the corner litter box. Yeah, okay. It's maybe fine for a little baby bunny for like a couple of months, and then they're gonna grow out of it. Typically what I suggest is to just get a high-walled cat litter box. That's what my rabbits used, and it was great. Your rabbit's gonna spend about 80% of its time in the litter box. So it's really important that you get one that's big, that they can move around in, and that has plenty of access to hay, because rabbits eat and poop at the same time. So they're gonna be sitting in that litter box, they're gonna be eating their hay, and they're gonna be pooping it out. And that's how they live. And I suggest high-walled, uncovered litter boxes, because your rabbit will kick litter when it jumps in and out, and the high walls will just reduce the mess. I will do another separate video on litter boxes as well. Number 9 is a big one, not taking your rabbit to the vet regularly. People just don't think about this. Rabbits are small animals, so they get grouped in with guinea pigs and hamsters and rats and those types of animals that typically, and in my opinion, if you have a pet, you should take it to the vet at least once a year just for a checkup. But rabbits are one of those animals that it should be strict, like dogs and cats. They should definitely go to the vet at least yearly. Rabbits' illnesses come on really quietly, and there are things that you may not pick up on. So it's really important that you get them to the vet and make sure that you have those wellness checks out of the way, that you're getting them vaccinated if you have access to vaccines where you live. And another part of that is spaying and neutering. A lot of people, again, they see them as small pets. They don't realize that they should be spayed and neutered. Reproductive cancers are really common in rabbits, and they normally arise around age 5. They can cut your rabbit's lifespan in half. So it's really important to get them spayed or neutered, especially if you're going to have them living in pairs, which is highly suggested. It gets rid of hormonal issues. Your rabbit is going to develop a huge attitude after about 4 months of age when those hormones start to kick in. So you're going to be grateful at 6 months when you get them spayed or neutered, because it's going to help get rid of those attitude problems. And also, male rabbits spray urine if they're not neutered, and that is not fun. It's not fun to wipe off your walls. It's just not. And number 10, I went over this a little bit earlier in the diet, but feeding too many fruits is just not good for your rabbit. It can cause obesity, and it's just difficult for your rabbit to break down those sugars if they're consistently getting an influx of complex sugars like that. So it's really best to limit the fruit to just a couple of times a week if you can. So that is it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you for coming back if you have been here before. Please double check to make sure that you're subscribed, hit the bell icon, and like this video if you enjoyed it. Now I'm going to throw in a little rabbit search update, so if you're not interested in hearing about that, I will see you next time, and if so, here's the update. So this is the bunny that I've been considering adopting from a rescue that's a couple hours away from me. He's really adorable. So I actually found him on Pet Finder, and I was super interested in him right away. So I went ahead and filled out an application, and I got a call back a couple of days later from the rescue. So his story is really sad, actually. He was originally found in someone's backyard with a few other rabbits. They assumed that they were just dumped somewhere, and someone saw them running around their backyard and said, hey, there's some rabbits in my backyard. So he got taken into the rescue, and he was adopted. And unfortunately, he was just returned about a week ago because the little girl had lost interest medicine him, and the mother wasn't able to take care of him because she was ill. So it's a really unfortunate situation. The rescue actually found out that he had a fungal ear infection, so they're currently treating him for that. And they actually just reached out to me, and I found out that I'm going to be able to go and meet him next weekend. So next weekend on December 12th, I'm going to be heading over to the rescue to meet this bunny. And as I've mentioned before, I'm going to be on vacation over Christmas break for quite a while, so I won't actually be back until January, and that's when I planned on bringing a rabbit home because I don't want them to go through the stress of being taken care of by someone, moving to a new place, and then a pet sitter has to come in, and it's all these people that they don't know, and there's just no time to adjust. So I really wanted to bring my rabbit home after that period. So I'm just really hoping that no one picks him up between next weekend and January, the first week of January, which is a pretty long time. So this may not be the rabbit, I hope it is, but I will definitely let you guys know if it doesn't work out for whatever reason. But I will be making a vlog of going to meet the bunny, just kind of the whole process of adoption, because I really want to advocate for adoption here on my channel. A lot of novices, including myself, when I originally started this channel, I had actually gotten Willie from a breeder, and I ended up adopting Sadie. And I think a lot of novices just don't realize that there are so many rabbits that need homes. And it's really great to get an adult rabbit. I mean, there are so many benefits of adoption. It's cheaper, you get a calmer rabbit, you know their temperament before you bring them home. So there's just a ton of benefits to adoption, and I hope that you guys will consider it as well. And as an aside, I also ordered about half of my rabbit supplies today, so I'm super excited for those to come in, and I will do a full haul of them once I have everything in, which will probably be after Christmas. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching and for being here, and I will see you guys in the next video, which will be on Wednesday. Thanks for coming. Bye.